Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bourbon Talk. Happy Mother's Day to all those who observe. We're doing it a little bit different today. I am broadcasting live from the back porch in my childhood home in Indiana. I got vaccinated. My vaccination kicked in this last week. So I decided that this would be a good time to travel up to Indiana and surprise my mom for Mother's Day. It's the first time I've seen her in God knows how long. So I'm up in Indiana and in my childhood home. It's weird to be here. It's weird to be out and about and be out in the world. I have no idea if the Wi-Fi is going to support this live stream. So for all I know, this is going to buffer out of existence at any given moment. A couple of surprises from being home that we're going to get into here in a second. Tonight we're doing old school, which means that we are out on the porch sneaking sips of something stronger than Coke. Cheers. It's good to see everybody. I look forward to this as always. This is one of the things that I look forward to. It's been a weird week. It's been a hard week in a few ways. The semester came to an end. There's some other stuff, weird energies out in the world. I hope that people are doing fine. I hope they're doing well. I hope they're feeling well. I hope you're getting vaccinated and all that good stuff. I want to take the moment before we get into things. Oh, it's absolutely surreal to do this in my childhood home. Very weird for me to come out here and just live stream and talk to a bunch of people about politics outside of this house. It is so weird. And like, it's like one of those things where like you go see your family and you feel instantly younger. Yeah, it's very strange. And I'm going to talk about being home in a minute. But I want to go ahead and give people a couple of quick little bonuses since you hang out. This is for some of the people who have been watching for a while. A couple things I'll talk about. First and foremost, for those who heard me talk about it in the past, about how when I was like eight and nine, I used to sneak out in the middle of the night dressed in a ski mask and sweatshirts and sweatpants, and I called myself the Green Mosquito, and I went looking for crime. This is the weapon that I carried around. This was what I was going to fight crime with. And for those of you who are paying attention, this is a Thundercats sword inside of a He-Man sheath. So this was the weapon of the Green Mosquito. And I used to go out into town, in this town, looking for crime, and I was gonna take care of it with this sword. I am so lucky that I never found crime because I probably would have been murdered, and that would have made for a very weird newspaper story. I think that would have been one of those things that like would have went viral before there was virality. People around the country would have wondered what happened to the weird little child who was out looking for crime. I also found this during this was my lunchbox as a kid. That's Knight Rider, and as you can see, this was for Yates Sexton in room 50. Look at this shit. How beautiful is this lunchbox? You don't have lunchboxes like this anymore. That's amazing. I used to carry the same lunch every single day, which was a peanut butter sandwich, a plastic baggie of Doritos, and a thermos of water. That was my lunch every day for like 2 or 3 years, every single day. So that was exciting. The other thing, and this is to show how much I appreciate the Bourbon Talk audience. Here is a picture that I found today, which is wonderful. Are we ready for this? Because this is a bonus surprise before we get to the real shit, before we talk about politics and we start talking about how this country is in trouble. Okay, are you ready? Look at that little guy. Look at that little cowboy. Yeah, he's out causing trouble, getting the loot, taking it back to his hideout. The husky kid. I tell you what, that Every time I come home, I look at that picture and I'm like, I do not know who that child is, and I do not know who that is. Yeah, how about that? Cheers, everyone. Yeah, so it's interesting to get out and about. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. I'm traveling down tomorrow to Atlanta. We're going to tape the. I don't know if I can talk about that. I don't know if that's confidential or not. I'm taping a thing tomorrow that Tuesday that I'm excited about. But I have to tell you, I was coming up to Indiana to surprise my mom, and it's getting weird out there, people. It's getting weird. And I know, like, obviously we've been shut in for a while and locked down for a while. Things are changing out there. I cannot tell you how many cars I saw on the road that had QAnon stickers. And I'm not talking about just like a Q, I'm talking about God knows how many QAnon stickers and different QAnon stickers and like different configurations of them. I saw a couple of QAnon like vanity plates. I saw a couple of billboards with like QAnon and pedophile cabals, save America from Satan. I saw so many billboards and stuff on cars and things like that. The other thing that I kept seeing throughout the country, and listen, this wasn't the first time I've driven from Georgia, the blue state of Georgia, obviously, but up through the heart of America, up to Indiana. Um, I I've seen a lot of like Gadsden flags. I've seen like Second Amendment billboards here and there. I saw so many signs and flags and things that had been put up that were like, you can't take my guns, or just try and take my guns. I saw homemade signs that were like, come and take my guns and see what happens. I saw a lot of it. Really, really strange. And I've seen those things before, but not on this level. It is obvious that like kook country has just been turned up. I saw so much Trump shit. I saw so much fascistic stuff. People with like cars that have like, again, it's like the instead of the family stickers, it's all of the guns that they own. It was really strange. It was really surreal, and I didn't know exactly how to process it. And I would there are certain cities and towns that I drive through in order to get here, including my hometown. I come from a small town in southern Indiana, and like this town's been hit hard, like during the pandemic, and you can tell. And like this is a town that I talk a lot about Americans being betrayed over the last few decades, and hyper capitalism taking industry out and just ruining these small towns in order to put in Walmart, hyper capitalistic enterprises, to ship jobs overseas in order to circumvent minimum wage and benefits and all that shit. This town has been hit very hard. And this town used to be a coal mining town, but it also used to be an industry town. There was a General Electric plant about 3, 4 blocks that way that a lot of my people worked at, and those places are obviously gone. But like this round of the pandemic has taken a toll. It's really amazing to see all the places that have been shut down and all the places that are they've been wiped out. Just private owned businesses, family businesses, stuff like that. It's brutal. It was really brutal, and I knew it was going to be rough. Like I have to tell you, it's worked in stages. Obviously, like I watched Walmart come into my hometown and just wipe it out, and that happened in stages. And then, of course, there's like the certain level where all of a sudden, like these sort of side businesses that start coming in. And for those of you who like live in some of these towns, I'm sure you've seen them. it's like they get the Dollar Generals, a lot of Dollar Generals, or a Dollar Tree, or some sort of dollar type of store. They start getting those types of things. And you start seeing those come in. And then all of a sudden, all these old beat up businesses, the ones that had been wiped out, all of a sudden they start getting replaced by things like, it used to be vape stores. Now it's CBD stores. And my God, there was no end to the CBD stores that I saw while I was traveling here and through here. And of course, that is a side effect in part of our healthcare system and people not being able to afford care and not being able to take care of themselves. It's an alternative to prescription drugs. It's an alternative to having to go in and see a doctor. And you start seeing those things start coming in. And as they come in, you start realizing it's like, oh, this town is sort of like now in third, fourth, fifth wave of hypercapitalism. And now people are just trying to like peck the bones of these towns. It's frustrating. And frustrating is not the right word. It pisses me off. I got really pissed off today. I was driving around with my mom earlier, saying my respects to, cemetery and stuff. And we stopped by rent to own, cashing payday advance places. Absolutely. And, I stopped by the downtown, and Linton used to be like my hometown. It used to have like a very thriving downtown. In fact, when my grandfather was a boy, like Linton was the place to be. It was like the metropolis. It was like the New York City of Southern Indiana. And he just dreamed of coming here. And you see this downtown, and I was asking my mom to like tell me what used to be here, and she's like, that used to be this store, that used to be this store, that used to be a place where people, they'd go in and get sodas, or they'd go in and get flowers, they'd go in to get furniture, and they're just gone. They're just wiped out, and they have just been absolutely destroyed, and now they're empty fronts, and it pisses me off so much. And yeah, we still have a movie theater. Linton was big time. Linton was sort of the it was sort of the envy of a lot of surrounding towns for a while. And it just pisses me off. It really pisses me off that so many people have been so mistreated by this economy. And it was on purpose. It was absolutely on purpose. This wasn't an accident. People didn't think that this would be fine. Like they knew that towns like this would be hollowed out, and they knew that middle America would be hollowed out. And it's really, really aggravating and infuriating. And I've seen so many people in my family and so many people that I love and I care about who I wouldn't go that far. I've seen them really hurt and live shorter lives and live worse lives because of this project that was all about sending jobs to places where people could be exploited for less wages and not have to get paid benefits and minimum wage. And now we're just seeing the next wave of it. And I think we're tiptoeing up to a moment. And the jobs report, I know it kind of flipped people out a little bit. And now they're talking about the YOLO economy. There's no YOLO economy. People have decided that they don't want to put up with this shit anymore. They don't want to be exploited. And on top of that, the pandemic made it incredibly clear who is valued and who is not. I mean, the pandemic hit, and immediately, instead of this country making sure that people were safe and actually handling the economy, they're like, shut your mouth and get back to work. Yeah, you're going to get sick. Yeah, you're going to get COVID. It might be debilitating. You might never recover. You might die. But, I mean, somebody needs to serve these people. You're essential, right? You're our heroes. And anytime that someone starts telling you you're essential or you're a hero, or we're all family around here, that's just code for we're going to use and abuse you and pay you less money. We're going to ask you to make sacrifices. And people aren't putting up with it anymore. And I actually think that is a good sign. And I tweeted about this, I want to say it was earlier today, I don't know. Time. What is time? But I think the job numbers show that a lot of people don't want to put up with this shit anymore, and they're not going to put up with this shit anymore. They've had time to think about who they are and what value their lives had, and I think that's exciting. I think that's hopeful. I really truly do. And I think that if we can start realizing that we deserve better and that we should not that we should not be chewed up and spit out and die these early deaths and not really enjoy any of the fruits of our labor or even basic human dignity. We shouldn't be treated like disposable trash. And that's what's going on. And by the way, like it's revealing so much as these places are putting up signs that say, sorry, we're not closed. People are lazy. Well, fuck that. People are not lazy. People have been working their asses off. They've been working multiple jobs their entire lives. And now we're even starting to see, and I thought that this op-ed, we're gonna talk about this on the muck rig tomorrow. Um, I guess it's coming out Tuesday. We'll record tomorrow. But this op-ed that this CEO put out, where he's like, "Well, what the pandemic has shown is that a lot of people like to work from home, but that'll basically allow us to start treating them like contractors." And here's a fun little thing, just a little bit of an idea of how this happened and where the contractor idea came from. This is fun, and by fun I mean disgusting. The idea of the contractor is actually an innovation, right? Because they just make up things. They just make up ideas. They're legal fictions to get between the lines, right? Because that's what these people do. I mean, lawyers and the people who work for these corporations, their entire jobs are to take reality and twist it and figure out ways to exploit it. I wrote about this in American Rule with the torture shit with the George W. Bush administration, where they're like, well, what is torture? And really, it's the torturer who gets to decide if it's torture. If they think it's interrogation, then it's not torture, right? And what these legal fictions are doing is they're inventing these things like contractors. And I have to tell you, as somebody who for years has been freelancing, you know what happens when you do contract labor is they don't have to pay you your worth. You would be shocked to know what freelance writers make. And by the way, like you're just happy to get the job. You're happy to get the opportunity. So when you're contract labor, obviously you don't get benefits. Obviously you don't get solidarity with fellow workers. It's a dream situation for CEOs. And this is what we've been talking about for the past year and a half with the pandemic. They were going to use this. And real fast, so where this got sort of piloted, funny enough, is professional wrestling. Professional wrestlers have always, in particularly in like the major leagues of like WWE, they've always been contractors, which means that they don't have to get salaries, which means that they don't have to get benefits. They have to apply for their own private insurance. That way, if like they get wiped out or they get hurt, the company doesn't have to pay for them. And they're like, don't worry, we'll take care of them. If anything happens, don't worry, we'll take care of it. Bullshit. And now that contract idea, which by the way has also been pushed further by gig labor, is now being pushed forward in order to get around the 40-hour work week, the 5-day work week, and this idea of benefits. And they're going to push and push and push, and they will not stop. And if there's anything you remember from this bourbon talk, besides the sword that I used as the green mosquito, it's this. The way that hypercapitalism works is it has to have sustained, prolonged growth, which means that if they go ahead and just say all these people are contractors, you're a contractor, you do not get a salary, you don't get benefits, it doesn't stop there. That's just the next move. The next move is, oh, you're contractors, and this is where we screw you. But guess what happens? In the next quarter, they have to figure out another way to screw you. They have to figure out another way to push the profits. So as a result, even that immense cruelty, which would change society as we know it. By the way, this is a stray cat named Cinnamon. And Cinnamon apparently is really starved for attention and very affectionate. My mother is the patron saint of stray cats. She is an absolute saint who cannot see animals go without. So this is Cinnamon. I assume Cinnamon is going to make a cameo throughout Bourbon Talk tonight. I told you, surprises galore. So if they do screw us and they make us all contractors, that's not the end of it. It can't be the end of it. That's the beginning of the next stage. This cannot continue, which says that either, and they're not allowed to perform. They're exclusive contractors. So what has to happen now is either we're just going to keep going and basically we're going to collapse into neo-feudalism, where we're going to live in Amazon towns and we're going to get paid in Amazon dollars and we got to give our money back to the Amazon company store. Either that's going to keep happening and these corporations are going to outgrow things. By the way, they're just gobbling up houses right now. There's a reason why all these houses cost so much. They're gobbling them up that way that they can rent them to people, because rent is one of the original hyper-capitalistic frauds. It is the best way to exploit people, period, because you're not losing anything. You're just keeping the property and making people pay more than they should. Either this is going to continue until we live in a neo-feudalistic nightmare. And by the way, they don't pay people enough for the economy to continue, so that's going to fall apart. And by the way, that's just an absurd fantasy held by people like Elon fucking Musk, who, he ate shit on SNL last night. It was so terrible. Oh my God. I can't believe I made myself watch part of that. I really can't. It was so grotesque. Anyway, that's an absurd fantasy. But it's either that or this exploitation is going to lead to conflict, crisis, and possibly violence or a revolutionary type situation. It can't continue because it is a constant fraud. It has to continue growing. And every step, that step is not the end step. It has to continue. It has to keep growing. I keep trying to explain to people, this is how McDonald's ends up selling chicken wings, because they have to grow. It's not enough that you sell everybody in the world, in every country, in every town, your hamburgers. Eventually you're like, shit, we're selling everybody this. We got to find something new. I would love to go, I would say toe to toe with Ben Shapiro, but it would be more like, I guess, like my chest to the top of his head. I would love to talk with Ben Shapiro and go against his stupid bullshit college debate tactic. Oh my God. And I don't think I could do it without laughing. He's so absurd. He's such a hack. And I love that he's the best that the right has to offer. Oh, he's the intellectual pulse of the right. Certainly he is. He's a hack. Hack. Whew. Yeah, Shapiro doesn't want to talk to people like me. Shapiro, oh my God. Well, Jared, I don't think that's true. Have you ever thought about Abraham Lincoln? God, that dude. Oh my God. Just thinking about Ben Shapiro. Oh, that guy. Sometimes I study him just to try and understand, like, the quote unquote intellectual ideological underpinnings of the right. And it is, it's great. By the way, I'm glad that somebody said this. Ben Shapiro buying the piece of wood. One of the all-time great moments of the political right. Just the best. Here I am, Home Depot. Bought this beautiful piece of wood. Gonna build a house with it. Oh my God, he put it in a bag. He put it in a bag because he had to show people that he had shopped at Home Depot. Unbelievable. Just all-time great. All the best, Ben Shapiro. Wonderful moment. And so sad. And there were people on the right who were like, that was great. Ben Shapiro, real man. That's a beautiful piece of wood. Gotta take it home, sand it, maybe stain it. Great American piece of wood. By the way, before we get to the questions, we're getting ready to do the questions. Props to this live stream. My mom's, my childhood home's Wi-Fi is hanging on. I thought for sure that this thing was going to be buffering within the first 10 minutes. I'll be honest with you. I was totally ready for that. Cheers to my mom's Wi-Fi. How about that shit? All right, let's do some questions. I'm not going to tempt fate. I feel like I just tempted fate a little bit. Free economy. Best thing in the world. Best thing there ever has been. Allows me to go to Home Depot. I forgot where it was. Allows me to go into Home Depot. by this beautiful piece of wood. What else would you want? Ross Hockman says, "Are you also confused? We got a couple things here that go together. Are you also confused by the Democratic embrace of Liz Cheney? Yes, she stood up to the rest of the GOP, but that doesn't make her a martyr, and it certainly doesn't make her worthy of admiration. Cheney is still a Republican, though, through and through." Okay, so we have a couple of questions about Liz Cheney, but I will say, first off, I'm not confused by it. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to coin a term. I've been throwing this around in conversations. I do not think that I've said this on a podcast yet. So this is another. It's a bourbon talk first. A bourbon talk first. I'm calling this. Oh man, I'm calling this Comeyism, as in James Comey. Comeyism. It sounds almost like communism, so that might make some hairs go up on the back of your head. Comeyism is a result of dichotomous two-party social media spectacle-driven politics. So James Comey, obviously, when he releases the letter that says that Hillary Clinton is under investigation in October, I believe October 28th. Somebody check me on that. I think I remember that. I'm not going to get into why I remember that, but October 28th of 2016, James Comey comes out, and before that he'd said Hillary Clinton has been wronged of all, or been cleared of all wrongdoing. October 28th, he comes out and says Hillary Clinton is now under investigation just a few days before the 2016 election. Everybody in the world wants James Comey's head on a platter. Well, so he's the most hated person in the world. Then, of course, Trump gets into office. And when Trump gets into office, James Comey causes problems for Trump. And he starts saying, this is what Trump did. He made me uncomfortable. There were a lot of insinuations, yada, yada, yada. Suddenly, James Comey is treated like a hero. Suddenly, he's part of the resistance. And suddenly, everyone's like, Comey's doing the right thing. He's on our side. Robert Mueller was the exact same way. People forget Robert Mueller was a Republican. Robert Mueller had been part of so many problematic things within his career. But the moment that he became the guy investigating Donald Trump, he suddenly became, I knew it, October 28th. Yes, I called it. As soon as Robert Mueller starts investigating Trump, all of a sudden he starts getting memed onto Captain America bodies. All of a sudden he's the last best hope. It's Mueller time. The Comeyism of the rule, and Liz Cheney is part of this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and particularly in spectacle-based, dichotomous, social media-driven politics, these people become our heroes because we're looking for heroes. And in a two-party, dichotomous, social media-driven political system, that person has to be a hero. If they are troubling the villain, all of a sudden they're the good guy. And going back to professional wrestling, it's just like that. You have good guys and you have bad guys. You have faces and heels. And if somebody comes in, even if they're a bad guy, and attacks a bad guy, you automatically know they're a good guy. They made a face turn. That's the way that we have been taught to experience politics. Because Liz Cheney came out and stood up against Trump, and she did the right thing. But that's like base level good thing. Donald Trump sent a mob of people to try and overthrow the presidential election of the United States of America. He sent in his goons to kill his vice president and possibly assault the leadership of Congress. Just because you say that that deserves to be impeached doesn't make you a hero. That makes you a person who recognized that there was a problem. But we have to treat them based on this good guy, bad guy, dichotomous, left, right, blue, red, spectacle-driven politics. Liz Cheney is not a hero. Liz Cheney is problematic. You can cheer her on for doing the right thing against Donald Trump. And by the way, I think, and real fast, L. West said, did we ever before care about who was the number 3 Republican or Democrat leader in the House? Why should we care now? Which is a really good question. We shouldn't care about that part of it. The only actually noteworthy thing here is to point out, and this isn't even about Liz Cheney, she did the bare bottom minimum of her duty and oath. In this situation, what we should care about is the fact that the Republican Party has now made it orthodoxy that you support Donald Trump or you're out, which is what Lindsey Graham has said. That's the important part of this story. It's not Liz Cheney. She's a Cheney, and she's problematic. So that whole story is based on this dichotomous, spectacle-driven politics. Not everybody who opposes Donald Trump or the Republicans is a good person. Not everybody who has a D next to their name is a hero. We have to stop looking for saviors and messiahs, and we have to stop looking for these symbolic, dichotomous ideas. If we're going to get forward, if we're going to make things better, we have to start looking at actual things beyond the symbolism of the moment, which is hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, that we've been taught this stuff. We've been taught to do this. It's a lot. Yeah, supporting the theft of the 2022 election, all the elections, honestly. Adam, I saw your Substack about Santorum and Mark Levin. I feel like I know the stuff you're talking about, but I also can't help but feel like, why the fuck wasn't I taught this stuff? So I wrote about this. Cinnamon's moving. Cinnamon's stealing the show. Yeah, see, she knows. She knows what's up. I wrote about on this Substack article. I wrote about that Santorum, who of course came out and said, where does he read questions from? I read questions on Twitter, and I get some emails or DMs with questions. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer those too. So Santorum, of course, came out and said that there was nothing in America, white Christians came over and settled America, and that there's no Native American culture. I wrote about in the Substack that, Native Americans completely influenced the culture. They made sure that the colonists weren't going to die and starve to death. No! Oh, no, the connection is unstable. Oh, no. Okay, let's see if this thing's going to work. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, no. I knew this was going to be problematic. Oh, no. Oh, no. Are we back? Oh, we're back. Oh, I thought it was all over. Okay, I'm not going to... I tempted fate. I tempted fate. That's what happened. See, I was bragging. And that was on me. That was on me, and I know better. As a Hoosier and a Cubs fan, I know better than to brag. My apologies. So Santorum says Native Americans, they didn't have a culture. They didn't do anything for America. Of course, Mark Levin comes out and says that capitalism can't be racist, even though capitalism is based on white supremacy and exploitation and slavery and forced labor and the destruction of the cultures of people of color. It's all bullshit. The reason why you haven't learned about all of that stuff, the reason why, and again, I'm just some dude from Indiana. I didn't know this shit. I didn't know until I started doing the research for myself. Like, I would not have known this if I hadn't gone viral and suddenly got this big platform and I was like, oh shit, I need to know more, and I had to educate myself. The only reason we haven't learned this is because this story is not conducive to power within the United States of America. To learn about how we exploited other cultures, to learn about how capitalism... By the way, most economists who study capitalism, they don't know where capitalism came from. They just know, like, how it works. They don't know what it's built on. They don't know where the original accumulation of capital came from. All of that stuff, it's just like, oh, don't worry about it. You just have to manage it. You don't need to know about the history of it. You don't have to know about how all of this stuff came about. You don't have to know how white supremacy is completely integrated into the capitalistic political power system. You just have to know how to pull the levers and do this stuff. And that's exactly right. There are all of these emerging rules right now. And this is one of the reasons some of the most abuse that I've ever gotten as a political analyst was from American Rule. It was when Trump started talking about patriotic history. The reason they do that and the reason they're pushing that is because white supremacy is brittle. It's so brittle. And the moment that you start getting told actual history, that it falls apart because it's a giant lie and Ponzi scheme. And when you actually take a look how things actually work, you realize, by the way, that it's not even actual capitalism. It's not even actually what people intended. Look at this cat. You're a big sweetheart. But you actually start to learn how these things work, and you start to realize, oh, I am disadvantaged for a reason. All of this stuff is not just set up for a particular group of people, it's against everybody else. And suddenly you start to realize why this stuff happens the way that it does. And so you're not going to be taught that. That is changing. And it can change over time. This cat is now smelling the back of my head. Hi, sweetheart. And all of a sudden now people are starting to talk about this stuff. We're sitting here on a Sunday night. We're sitting here on Mother's Day 2021 talking about this right now. We're sitting here on Mother's Day 2021 talking about this right now. I'm having so many I never expected to talk about this stuff. Somebody just brought up Adam Smith. I didn't know who Adam Smith was until like 10 years ago. Things are changing because the system is so obviously corrupt and so obviously screwed up and based against people. But it's getting better. That's why you didn't learn it, is because it's look at this cat. Because it's very fragile and it's very brittle. That's why you haven't learned it. Travis Alford, related. Can we talk about the Tennessee lawmakers' attempted revisionist history of the Three-Fifths Compromise? It's the exact kind of historical whitewashing we've been talking about. Absolutely it is. They have to pretend that the founding fathers, they weren't white supremacist, classist, patriarchal dudes who were just trying to paying taxes to the British.